Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TokYo-Yo Reviews. Tonight I have to be a little quieter because my son and my wife are both sleeping in the other room, so it'll be a whispery episode. Also, thank you for all the comments, the thumbs up, the subscriptions. It's just really exciting. I'm really happy that people are interested. If I get to 50 subscribers, I'm thinking of doing a few different things. One of them might be like a versus between two yo-yos, or I could do a tutorial, or I could review a yo-yo I hate, and there are not very many of those. So anyway, thanks again. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll say that right now, but let's get back to the yo-yo, and what we'll be reviewing today is the Magical by Magic Yo-Yo. So let's get into it. So this is the yo-yo here, the Magical, and this yo-yo was designed by Junalang Tan. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm not familiar with the player that much, but I'm not sure if you'd consider this a signature model or if it's just designed by him or he helped design it. It's not clear, but I guess you could call it a signature model since it's got a signature on it. So you're gonna see the shape here is, I guess, what you would say is like sort of a heavy rim, but it's sort of V-shaped here. The cup is very simple. You just have a flat center area here. The material is a 6061, but it's very, very interesting feeling. I'll explain a little bit more about that later. And the feel, again, as I mentioned, is very special. That I'll be talking about a lot later, but the feel is very nice. The look of this yo-yo, I think, is pretty awesome. We'll get to that soon as well. But let's just say I'm a sucker for galaxy splashes, and this is no exception. So this is a bimetal yo-yo from Magic Yo-Yo. It's very unique. This design is very interesting, especially for Magic Yo-Yo. The body is fascinating here. You've got not only the kind of sloping shape, but you've got these ridges here. You guys can probably see these ridges that run along the edge here, which give it some distinction. The metal rims are actually inside here. They're flush with the rim, which is very, very interesting. Not only does it give it a very unique look, many bimetals have the metal rings on the outside of the yo-yo here. And actually, as I mentioned in my katana review, I dropped that yo-yo and the rims were dislodged. I've also done that with my Yo-Yo Factory Edge. I dropped that on the ground and the ring was dislodged, and both of those vibe now. But I feel like the metal rim on the inside of the cup is a very interesting and kind of a way to avoid damage, I think. As I've said, the design of this yo-yo is very interesting, and it's not just the metal rings that are on the inside of the cup here, but also the splash here is just really nice. It's really rich, almost neon blue plus purple, and there's some silver in there as well. But this was an interesting yo-yo. The M04 Stealth was released, and I think kind of right around the same time. I'm not sure if it's before or after. This was released, but it wasn't really advertised a lot. I know I saw it on the R-Throwers subreddit. Dylan Kowalski reviewed it for his channel, and he's sponsored by Magic Yo-Yo, so that makes sense. But as he mentioned on his review, there was a very limited run of this, and of course, as I said, I live in Japan, and I didn't really have a problem getting this yo-yo. It was in stock at Japanese stores for quite a while, but at the time of this review, I can't get this thing. I can't find it anywhere. So it was in a very limited run. Now it seems to be just gone everywhere, which is kind of unfortunate because I feel like this would have gained so much more popularity, and it may have even rivaled the Stealth if more people had known about it, or if it had had a bigger run when it was released. I mentioned in my Space Cadet review that that was probably my most thrown yo-yo. This one might match that. I've played with this a lot, and it used to be one of my favorites. I've got other favorites now, but when I got this, I just threw it for weeks and weeks and touched nothing else. It's a lot of fun. This yo-yo plays really well. It plays really balanced, it plays really stable, and it spins for a long time, as all yo-yos made in the last 5 to 10 years do. It does feel like it's very well controlled, and I think it's because of the way that the metal rings are in here. It just feels really solid. It feels really stable. You feel like you can trust it. But I do feel like this is a good learning yo-yo. I learned a lot of basics on this. I feel like it's trustworthy and it's stable enough to get most beginners through, and for the price, it's not, you know, a bad entry level bimetal, I guess you could say, for someone who's a relative newbie to the hobby. One thing that I'd like to mention too is this yo-yo has actually put up with kind of a lot of punishment from me. This was around the time when I was taking a lot of bearings out and cleaning them. This one did kind of lock up on me, so I switched it out for center track, cleaned the whole thing, de-shielded it, and it's been fine. This is not the stock bearing, but it's still really, really smooth. I've never had any problems with performance with this guy, with the exception of the pads. They were a bit slippery when I first got them, and they've only gotten worse over time. I've kind of checked them, they're all flush and everything. It could be the fact that I've played the heck out of it, but I've played the heck out of other yo-yos too, and they haven't seen that kind of performance dip. So I'll probably just apply some new pads or silicone it or something, because this thing is awesome. One thing though, on catches, it is a bit sharp. These rims here are a bit pretty flat and hard, and it does look rounded, but these ridges will kind of hurt a little bit. But overall, I really like this yo-yo. I think this is probably one of my favorites. It was definitely the favorite of mine at the time. I haven't played it a lot recently, but the nice thing about doing these reviews is it's given me an excuse to kind of go back to my older throws that I'm not using as much and throw them again. Okay, so let's talk about pros and cons. First of all, the design of this being a bimetal is just really interesting, having the rings on the inside. I don't have anything else like this, so that's a very interesting point. As I mentioned, this is very brushed. I don't know how to explain it, but the blast on this is really, really nice. The grinds on this are pretty incredible. I don't know if grinds are outdated or something, but I really like them. But this thing is just, it feels, I don't know how to explain it, drier than other blasts. It's just really, really nice, really smooth. I love the Galaxy colorway. I think this is awesome. I love Galaxy colorways. I've got a few different ones from different companies, but I really like the kind of neon blue. I think it looks really nice. And again, as I mentioned with the bimetal design, I like that the ring is on the inside of the cup here. I feel like it'll be harder to dislodge. I've been very careful with this one, but I do feel like there's a durability factor when you have the ring on the inside of the cup rather than the outside. And another pro is the price. This thing is really great for the price. I paid about like 45 bucks for it, or 50 bucks. It was on sale when I bought it. If you can get your hands on it now, I have no idea how much it would be these days. Onto the cons of this yo-yo. It is hard to find, as I mentioned. I looked on American stores, I looked on Japanese stores, I looked on European stores, and you can't really find this thing anywhere. You might find it like on AliExpress. I didn't see any on there, or maybe like eBay or something, but this guy's hard to find, and I would definitely grab it if you can, because it's worth the money. We've talked about logos before and engravings, and I think this engraving is not great. I think the color of this yo-yo and the design is really nice, but this is not a good logo, I don't think. What does it say in here? Magic Yo-Yo and Yo Style M05. And it's got the name of the designer in there, which is Junling Tan. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, excuse me. Sometimes the catches can be a little painful, as I mentioned. It's a bit sharp. Especially if you're throwing this in winter like I am, it can be a little rough to catch because it's not the softest. This just may be a silly complaint, but I've got a couple throws like this where the color bleed is a little bit strong. I don't know if it was the quality of the splash or what does this, but you can kind of see that the colors don't separate great on the places where there's white. You can see there's like purple and blue bleeding in. If you see like a one drop or something with a splash like that, the color differentiation is really, really strong, except on their NQPs. Like I have a Kuntash NQP, and you can see a little bit of color bleed there, and that's probably why it was NQP. Not quite perfect, I mean. And you see that here, but for the price, I think it's not a problem at all. It doesn't really bother me, just something to point out. So anyway, guys, that's the M05 Magic Yo-Yo Magical. If you can get your hands on this, I think it's a really cool yo-yo. It's definitely worth the money. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I'm, again, really appreciative of all the people who've been watching and commenting and subscribing. If I get to 50 subscribers, I'll do something different. I'll put a poll up here, I guess. If you're watching this somewhere where you don't see polls, leave a comment for me. But yeah, I'm sure if you pick up the magical, you'll feel a new sense of wizardry for yo-yos.